Let's talk about the middle ear. So the middle ear is basically from your eardrum, which is number 4, all the way to the entrance of the cochlea, which is 8. And in that small area, there's actually 3 bones that are hinged together. These 3 bones are bound like sort of a Z kind of a shape. They're actually very important to our hearing. And when we get into understanding a little bit about the inner ear and the cochlea, you'll understand. But basically what they do is they impedance match the energy coming from the airwave into the cochlea and make it a similar energy transaction between the airwave moving the eardrum and vibrating these bones, and then those in turn vibrate the cochlea. And that's where we actually perceive hearing, is in the cochlea. The 3 bones, they transmit the vibration from the outer ear, or the eardrum, into the inner ear. So they sort of act as a pass-through of the energy from the airwave into physical motion. The 3 bones are called the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. Just stands to reason that these 3 bones vibrate back and forth and create the air motion from the eardrum vibrating because of the air pressure differences into the motion of these 3 bones. The 3 bones are various sizes and transfer energy between acoustic to mechanical motion and act as impedance matching. Great example of impedance matching. Has anybody ever ridden like a multi-speed bicycle? When you change gears, you're still pedaling at the same speed perhaps, but the wheel changes speed because of the size of the gears. So you're taking the same energy applied to the pedals and you're making the wheel turn differently, sometimes easier, sometimes harder, based upon what gear you're in. So that's what impedance matching is. So this is a set impedance matching from one form of energy of your eardrum moving to moving these bones so that you can transmit the same amount of energy into your cochlea. The cochlea is filled with liquid, and we know that sound travels differently in liquid than it does in air. And that's why we need to impedance match the energy, because what we're trying to do is take the energy from the air motion of my voice hitting your eardrum and convert it into motion of sound in liquid, which is inside your cochlea, which actually does the conversion of the sound wave into something understandable. So that's why we need an impedance match. And they also have this equalizing pressure situation so that in your middle ear, pressure on the outside of your ear and the inside of your ear is relatively the same. I don't think somebody who's tone deaf is completely tone deaf, but I think that they probably have difficulty distinguishing between close pitches. So somebody that sings out of tune, for example, more than likely they haven't honed in their brain to figure out exactly what they're hearing when they sing. Their ear hears it, and they get this negative feedback loop into their brain saying, oh, you're singing too low, tighten your vocal cords. Oh, you're singing too high, loosen. So that interaction isn't quite happening perfectly. And I think you can probably train a lot of that and learn how to get better at it. Perfect pitch. That's really interesting because there's 2 different things. There's relative perfect pitch and then perfect pitch. Relative perfect pitch is hearing the difference between different tones and knowing what interval that is. That has to do with how well you distinguish between hearing this pitch and that pitch in your brain. Perfect pitch, and I believe that it has to do with your brain being able to interpret a sound and know what to call it exactly and know what it is. I don't know if it's inborn or whether it's trained, but some people have a much easier time of it because you've got 30,000 nerves from each ear going to different parts of your brain. So when you hear different pitches, it excites different parts of your brain. The other day I was watching I've got a German Shepherd, and she's got these ears that are like big ears, and she hears a squirrel and they go phew, and the ears turn, right? And she gets into this mode that's instinctual. She's like got blinders on. All she's thinking about, catch the squirrel, catch the squirrel, catch the squirrel. And she goes running after the squirrel, because of course the squirrel runs away, but she's entranced on this squirrel and watching the squirrel and wanting to get the squirrel. That's an instinctual mode. How can I break her of that instinctual mode? Is I usually clap my hands, scream at her, some sort of sound that's going to shake her out of that instinct. Why does that work? It works because when she hears my voice and the frequencies in my voice stimulates a different part of her brain that's not in this instinctual, repetitive, obsessive mode. And it changes her brain function slightly so she can get out of it and then realize, oh, hi, and she's back. You know what I mean? And there's an old saying. What is it? The saying, music soothes the savage beast? It's probably because music stimulates different parts of the brain, and animals with a lesser developed brain get into these modes where certain pathways of their neurons firing are just instinctual, and those are the ways that their brains work. When you exercise your brain in terms of getting stimulation, it exercises different neurons firing. When you listen to music, some people love listening to R&B. Some people love listening to rock. Some people love listening to jazz. All of those musics have different frequency emphasis. And I know music makes you feel emotion. Why? Because it stimulates different parts of your brain. So you see how this all ties together? Why it's so important to understand hearing, because you're trying to create emotion with your music. You're trying to communicate with your listener through music. Certain people like different kinds of music, maybe because parts of their brain really like that better, because they enjoy that kind of stimulation. It's not just, oh, I like rock and I like jazz, and it's actually because maybe somebody gets more pleasure out of certain kinds of music in their brain sensing it.